అందరికీ నమస్కారం. सबको नमस्कार. The India Way Strategies for an Uncertain World. This book written by Shri Subrahmanyam Jaishankar, Minister of External Affairs, Government of India. About this book, amidst the chaos and contestations on finding the right term to describe India's power status as aspiring or rising or promising or evolving, Shri Subrahmanyam Jaishankar's The India Way Strategies for an Uncertain World comes loaded with answers like India may be rising, but it clearly has great distance to go. The book illustrates events, challenges, weaknesses, dogmas, politics, and a personal account of India's foreign policy by a career diplomat. In fact, none other than India's current Minister of External Affairs. Writing the first-hand account may be common by foreign policy practitioners, but a sitting foreign minister rarely pens his thoughts and ideas. With 40 years of experience, after two successful stints as a diplomat in China and the United States, Shri Jaishankar's study revolves around changes in the world system, especially the rise of China, new strategic alliances, and the return of nationalism based foreign policy at the critical time of the COVID-19 pandemic. Shri Jaishankar begins with an acceptance that the rise of China is an inspiration to India, but this needs to be seen through an interest-based and strategic prism. He states India and China began their economic, political, and strategic together, but no one anticipated the rise of China, especially that it would claim global power status. China's rise is a rare non-Western phenomenon that has claimed a power equilibrium with the United States of America, based on its cultural heritage of projecting China's personality. Interestingly, Shri Jaishankar argues that China has been winning the global contest for power without fighting, and the United States of America is fighting without winning. Meanwhile, the power quest between the United States of America and China has created disruptions, with each power of focused on selling its own products like America First and the China Dream. The global financial meltdown in 2009 had little impact on the Chinese economy, while the United States of America suffered financially and had non-lucrative outcomes from a long stretch of involvement in Iraq. China developed an active export-oriented market. It helped China to manage the 2009 crisis well. In this process, China has been enabled to broaden its market outreach globally and meet its huge strategic targets in South Asia, Africa, and Asian. China has successfully served its national objectives through strategies like the Belt and Road Initiative (BRI). At the same time, BRI has emerged as a challenge for international players, including India. As a result, China's powerful rise is among the multiple factors that have led to a more uncertain world. and the rest of the world may appreciate the remarkable rise of China. but India lives with it up close as an immediate neighbor. Chinese expansionist geostrategic thoughts intend to create a unipolar world order with others as its tributaries. The traditional global powers like the United States, Japan, United Kingdom, European Union, Australia, and India are uniting bilaterally and multilaterally to take upon the China challenge in a liberal democratic model. However, considering an erratic and unpredictable the United States of America and an uncertain Japan in finding common grounds against China, regional players like India stand on the cusp of confusion. Shri Jaishankar argues that imbalanced trade with China and interest-based cooperation with the United States and Japan have forced India to introspect its own capabilities. Meanwhile, India has proved itself strong by developing its nuclear capabilities and playing more significant roles at the United Nations and WHO. While Jaishankar boasts India's capabilities, he criticizes the previous non-Bharatiya Janata Party administrations for doing little to boost India's capabilities. In his view, India has missed many opportunities to make a mark, especially in matching with the development patterns of China. Overall, Jaishankar's pre-Modi assessment in the book is way too critical. For instance, Shri Jaishankar makes a premature assessment that India has not only established its credentials as the pharmacy of the world but also as a health security responder, citing India's fight against COVID-19. However, the current second wave of COVID-19 in India explains it otherwise. Within few months, India is making pleas to the global community to provide immediate medical help by sending in vaccines, oxygen and other medical needs. In chapter 3 titled Krishna's Choice, Strategic Culture of a Rising Power, Jaishankar touches upon the long-standing debate on whether India has its own strategic culture. The chapter must be seen as the continuation of a long-standing discussion between Indian and Western scholars on India's strategic culture, especially by George K. Tanham's pioneering work India's Strategic Thought, an interpretive essay. Tanham blatantly refutes any evidence to prove the tradition of strategic culture in India, which the Indian scholars have not welcomed. Former Foreign Secretary of India and National Security Advisor Mr. Shiv Shankar Menon has made vital interventions in suggesting that India has a rich strategic culture accounted in the epics like Ardhashastra, Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita. Similarly, Shri Jaishankar finds the Mahabharata as indisputably the most vivid distillation of Indian thoughts and statecraft. He argues that the Mahabharata accounts for real life situations and their inherent choices, representing the present world's multipolar world order. Therefore, as India prepares for more significant contributions globally, it should rely on its own traditions to address a tumultuous world. Dipping into history, Shri Jaishankar reasons that the leaders of the Indian freedom movement were clear on the foreign policy outlook of an independent India. Thus, soon after British left India in 1947, it worked to mainstream itself in the world politics beyond the adversarial Cold War scenario. Through a non-alignment movement, India became a leader among countries freed from colonial clutches. Meanwhile, India's quest for global leadership faced a significant challenge during the 1962 war with China, where India lost severely. The loss continues to be a dreadful reminder to India's policymakers about China. However, India's successful intervention to support East Pakistan, now Bangladesh, in 1971 against Pakistan had helped India to forget the dreadful past. In discussing globalization, Shri Jaishankar argues that it brought significant changes in the world order, especially in India. In 1991, India, in sync with global economic changes, opened up its economy to the world. However, after decades of globalization being touted as politically correct and economically inevitable, Shri Jaishankar observes that we see a dramatic revival of nationalism across geographies. The rise of nationalist movements across India, Turkey, the United States of America, and the United Kingdom are now the common phenomenon supporting a global rebalancing which was already in evidence present to reject globalization. It is now overlaid by greater regional volatility, higher risk taking, strong nationalism. On the neighborhood front, India has its challenge, and despite its best efforts, India continues to have an unstable neighborhood, strained relations with Pakistan, and an unsettled border with China are immediate challenges to India. Shri Jaishankar seems to suggest that off-track decisions of past governments have cost India hugely in asserting its position now. Meanwhile, he finds the steps taken by Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi match the present needs, though a number of foreign policy initiatives like Act East, Sagar, Neighborhood First, and Indo-Pacific Strategy. While he credits the current government for taking bold steps, the outcomes of these initiatives tell otherwise. While Sri Lanka has established strategic ties with China, a friendly neighbor like Nepal has shifted its trades towards China and continues to shed its India-centric outlook. On the China challenge, Shri Jaishankar suggests that the ability of India and China to work together could determine the Asian century. Equally, their difficulties in doing so many may well undermine it. However, China is a daunting challenge to India. The rest of the world may appreciate the remarkable rise of China, but India lives with it up close as an immediate neighbor. To deal with China, he hopes high for global groupings like the Indo-Pacific, which will not only address the rising security challenges in the maritime domain involving the USA, Japan, and Australia, but also help to balance an imbalanced Asia and Indo-Pacific region. Further, he suggests that the Japan-India cooperation may skew a new Asian balance. However, Shri Jaishankar fails to provide a roadmap in this regard. The main attraction of this book is the author himself, who served India in almost all strategically important countries, including China and the United States of America, as the top diplomat. While one begins the book to find inside stories of his past experiences, there is hardly any reflection in this regard. There are more philosophical musings than intricacies of India's foreign policy and his engagement in it. The author holds more to himself than he reveals, and this continues to bother the reader throughout the book. Also, Shri Jaishankar overrides on China in almost all of the 8 chapters, creating a mismatch with the title of the book. The book is centered on China and deals with India-China competition at large, but does not suggest a roadmap for India to deal with the China challenge. Overall, the book remains abstract on India's foreign policy. It becomes more vague when the author makes statements like the India way would be more shaper or decider than just be an abstainer. However, the book must be read by the students, researchers and the policy makers in understanding the changes and challenges in India's foreign policy. అందరికీ ధన్యవాదాలు. सबको धन्यवाद. If content is good, subscribe the channel. Thanks for your support. Jai Hind.